Starting take two in 3, 2, 1, go! Well, hey there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Take Two right here. You got it on the Voices on the Net network. Ronnie and I are back for yet another episode of the show, and it is great to be back, of course, after taking a few days off, including the weekend. We had a Memorial Day off, and clearly Memorial Day, a big, big day for the United States of America as we honor those that fight for our freedom, our safety, and so forth. Ronnie knows all about that, of course. How are you, Ronnie?
I'm great, but don't be surprised if I don't show up for a show on Saturday.
Ah, well, yeah, we don't have shows on Saturday, so I won't expect you. How's that?
Yeah, but, my whole week is going to be one day behind now.
I hear you. Yeah, it's like, with Monday, with us having off on Monday, it's like, do we have a show Saturday now? Because wouldn't that mean Monday is actually Sunday, whereas Tuesday is now our Monday? Yeah, one day off. I know. I feel your pain, Ronnie. But I think we could get. I think we could do it. I think we'll get used to it. Yeah. All right. Well, we're back for yet another episode. Glad to be here. Glad to have all of you tuned in. It is immensely appreciative. We are appreciative of the matter. We are. It is appreciated. I meant we have a great show for you all. We really do. You're gonna want to stay tuned. A lot to talk about. On this episode, we'll have Ronnie make it official in just a moment. But if all of you tuned in right now would be so kind, please visit www.vonthenet.com. That is right, the Voices on the Net Network's website, where you, the great listeners, will be able to find more information pertaining to the Voices on the Net Network. All you need to do is go up to the top of the website where you will see an About link. You click it, and you will arrive at a web page providing you everything you need to know regarding the network in thorough detail. Now, if you're a new listener, this is a page literally for you because you don't know what the network's about. You don't know what Voices on the Net's all about. Well, you may think it's a show. It's a network. You go to the website, you'll be able to find everything you need to know about the network right from that page. Totally recommend it for you. Now, you can also check out another great feature, podcasts. Yes, the podcasts of any of the episodes from any of the shows, all available on demand for and at your very own convenience. You check all of these great features out by going to www.vonthenet.com. Well, Ronnie, seeing that we had a few days off, we had Memorial Day off, we're going to talk more about Memorial Day, how your Memorial Day was, how your weekend was, and so forth. It's been a few days since we did this, of course, having you make it official. Can't forget about that trend. So, what do you say you check that envelope of yours? See, you could go either way, envelope. I'll use either one on the show.
Post-it note.
Yeah, post-it note, either one. Mind, either or. But what episode have we arrived at, Ronnie?
We are at episode 273.
273, folks. Episode number 273. As we trek towards the next mini milestone, which would be the 28th one. We just surpassed, of course, our 27th. But very cool, very cool. Glad to be here. And clearly after Memorial Day, the unofficial start of summer for many. And it's, people celebrate Memorial Day. They have a barbecue. They go to the beach, get tan. They go to the beach because it's, if it's nice out, the first unofficial day of summer, they feel, listen, I might as well go down to the beach. I have off, right? It's nice. It's a Memorial Day. The lifeguards start on Memorial Day. So let's go to the beach. I did not go to the beach. Even though I live in New Jersey, a lot of people did go to the beach. People in my family went to the beach, but I did not. How was your Memorial Day? What did you do?
You're looking at it.
Sit in your seat, work, schoolwork.
I just sat in my seat, yes. Did lots and lots of homework.
Gotcha.
So that was my basis for my 3-day quote holiday.
So you spent the day off plus the weekend. We don't usually keep, we won't count the weekend because we count that because those are our days off. But for take two, Memorial Day happened to Memorial Day was on Monday, and we had off, and you spent your day off doing schoolwork.
Fun. But I did have my window open. I was able to smell all the barbecues that were going on that I wasn't invited to.
Love that. Love the smell of the thing is, with Memorial Day, any day during the summer, during the summer, it's a beautiful smell in the evening. I guess if you smell barbecue in the morning, it's a little out of sort. But in the evening, it's the perfect time is right. It's about 5:30 in the afternoon. The heat of the summer afternoon has just passed, but it's still humid. It's about 78, 80 degrees. You're approaching the nighttime. You smell that barbecue in the air. You have the cicadas going crazy. The heat is still there. The humidity's still there, but it's not as bad as it was in the afternoon, early afternoon. The perfect feeling. You smell it, you feel it. At least in New Jersey, that's how it is. I don't know how it is in Nebraska, but
the same. I love it when you have the barbecue going.
Well, you lived in New Jersey.
The light is provided by the lightning bugs. And of course, the cicadas are serenading you.
You lived in New Jersey, so you can compare.
Yes, I did.
You can compare it to Nebraska. How is it different and so forth?
Really, there's no difference.
No?
Really? No. Except we just don't have a beach.
You don't have a beach, but you have plenty of lakes.
You have a pretend one called the river.
Well, don't you have... are there many lakes in Nebraska or just rivers?
We have where I'm located at is mainly two rivers. We have the Elkhorn River, and then, of course, we have the Missouri River. Other than that, you have lakes, but they're private. They're man-made, they're private, so you really don't have a lot of lakes to go to unless you go into Iowa.
Nebraska, now, the thing is, there are mountains in Nebraska, but seeing that you get a lot of tornadoes in Nebraska, a lot of valley, a lot of lowland, right?
Yeah,
level land.
Lots of flat.
A lot of flat land. The Badlands.
Yeah.
But Nebraska, and you've told me this, and we've talked about the comparison between Nebraska and New Jersey, that the summers and the winters are very alike for both New Jersey and Nebraska. That there's a lot of similarities in Nebraska that of in New Jersey, correct?
Yeah, pretty much similar, except for maybe the winter cycle. It's a little off. New Jersey they get a few storms, but their storms are massive compared to here. You get continual storms, and they just accumulate.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've never been to Nebraska. I would love to visit Nebraska.
So you should come visit me.
Yeah, I guess so. Wouldn't that be something? I'm doing a show or a couple of shows from Nebraska, Ronnie's neck of the woods. And you never know, anything's possible. Will surprise you maybe. But yeah, I'm glad you had a nice Memorial Day. I did. Like I said, I did not go to the beach. Would have liked to go to the beach, but I didn't. I spent it in New Jersey, in northern New Jersey, rather than southern New Jersey. But we had a barbecue. Had some chicken, some beef. I relaxed. I relaxed. I really took advantage of the day off. And, of course, in anticipation of Tuesday, couldn't wait to get back to do the show. I love doing this show with you, and it's fun and so forth. You know how much I love the autumn, but I'm glad summer's here. The unofficial start to summer.
Me too.
But I guess you can, regardless, consider it summer. It's definitely hot enough to be summer. Believe me. So, I'm glad.
We're catching up. We're getting warm.
Right. Yeah, warmer. Yeah, you would. Last time I talked to you a couple of days ago, you said it was 60-something degrees when it was 92 here.
See, that's just crazy. I don't know what happened to my weather here.
I
like it hot.
You had 90-plus degree weather in March, I think it was. March or April.
A day or two.
It's like, geez. And it was literally 30 degrees here. Now I'm getting 90-plus degree weather, and you're getting what? The 60-degree weather.
Something's wrong.
Something's odd here. Something's not right. But yeah, don't worry, Ronnie. You know what? You're gonna get plenty of hot weather this summer. No weatherman I play one on the radio.
There you go.
Yeah, but I could guesstimate that you're going to have plenty of hot weather this summer.
Yeah, probably about July 4th. At the rate we're going.
I can guesstimate that the 4th of July is going to include quite a bit of hot weather for you.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe the 3 H's too. Anybody know what the 3 H's are? I don't know if you do. And maybe Ronnie knows. Let's see if you know what the 3 H's are.
Hot, humid, what?
What? You don't know you know 2 of them, but what is the third one?
I don't know. What's the third one?
All right, you got hot, humid. You got humid, and the third one is hazy. Hazy, hot, and humid.
Yes, true.
The 3 H's, hazy, hot, and humid. So I could tell you, you're probably going to go through the 3 H's on 4th of July. I'm going to predict that. Let me know if I'm right when we approach the 4th of July. All right. Let me know if I'm right. All right. But again, glad to be back. This is episode number 273 of Take Two right here on the Voices on the Net Network. Appreciate you folks tuning in. We've got a brilliant show for you, so you want to stay tuned. Believe what I'm saying right now, right, Ronnie? We do have a great show.
That's right.
We do.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But we're going to start things off with this here. And the reason I'm going into this is because I tend to, when I'm pondering ideas, and Ronnie knows this about me quite a bit, because I like to, whenever I have something on my mind, I'll talk to her about it, and I'll go into detail with her. When I ponder ideas, I like to talk about them. It could be ideas that I'm hoping for. It could be an idea that maybe I've reached, but I'll still talk about to gain maybe more innovative thoughts from that idea that I'm going to be going into right now, which happens to be something that I would like to be the case, but isn't quite there yet. Has to do with making money on your blogs. And there's a great article here, folks, a great article on nytimes.com, the New York Times website, that has to do with making money on a blog. It is titled, "My Blog is Also Paying My Bills." And imagine that, your blog. You're doing something that you enjoy doing, blogging, more than likely. Actually, I guess this would be an interesting statistic, Ronnie. How many people blog just to try and make money versus those that blog to just do it because they like to do it? I would think it's probably, maybe half and half, maybe. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are trying, and they know that there's plenty of possibilities to make money on the internet. But people that blog, that are blogging for passion, because they have a passion for it, they're blogging because they enjoy writing, or even if it's an audio blog or, say, a video blog. If they make money, it's because they had a passion, and 4 years down the road, 2 years down the road, a year down the road, they're starting to make money. Well, clearly it's paying off. The reason I bring this up is I've been running this network for the last year and a half plus. I've been in this industry, the netcasting industry. I ran a classic rock radio station before this. I've been in this industry for over 4 years, and I'm making very limited money. So clearly I'm still here because I love doing this. I have a passion for doing this, and when the money comes, it's going to be a very fun moment, a very great moment for me and everybody associated with the network. But when it comes to blogs and so forth, Ronnie, and paying, your bills or making money from it, there's so much competition out there. There really is. You have tens of thousands of people doing the same exact thing as you. Mm-hmm. How do you, if you think about it, how would you separate yourself from the crowd if you think about it? It is not easy to do so. It's not.
No, it's not. There was a lady that was on the True Movie specials that they had on. And she was a blogger. She was just a temporary blogger, kind of like a diary online type thing.
Right.
And then she became interested, of course, in cooking. And she was a Julia Child's fan, a fanatic, and decided that she had purchased one of her books, had 365 meals in it, and she decided to put a blog on, and she decided to do that 365 days, cook a different meal every single day. In the beginning, it was just the family and friends, and then those, that occasional subscribe to her. But after about 2 weeks, she started really getting going, like 20,000. And then a reporter, and we're not talking about nationwide, not even statewide, in New York, caught sight of her blog and actually did an article on it, just a little sidestep article on it. And she made some millions off of what she did with that. Advertisers would give her cookware, would give her ingredients that would not be found here in the United States. And she would put that on the blog of how her time went. And she made all kinds of money by just blogging.
Yeah. And that is one out. Let me tell you this right now. One out of, I'd say, hundreds of thousands of people that are actually getting what she got from her website, the millions of people a month.
Right.
That's one in a. I'd be willing to go even as far as saying even more than that, but I'll be safe. I'll be conservative, and I'll say one out of 100,000 or a couple of 100,000 here that are doing what she did. Talking about people that blog on the internet, that have a website, they start a website, they start a blog in hopes that they're going to be able to pick up a very loyal following, a loyal crowd. This is a vast sea of content, folks. The internet. We're seeing more and more people each and every second of each and every day. People starting blogs up, blogging about the most random things, and that's another thing. What do you blog about? What do you write about? What do you talk about? The most random things, but if you have a loyal following, we talk about the snowball effect here, and how you hope to just increase that snowball, that increase in size. It helps to have that loyal following. You need that plateau. You need a platform. You need a foundation to start before you even think about increasing the size of that snowball, that loyal following. Most people, most publishers, most website owners, most bloggers are only going to be intriguing their family members, their friends. That's it. There's so much content out there. How can everybody profit from everybody giving everybody equal amounts of hits and so forth? You're not. It's going to be it's going to be weighted in terms of who's a lot lucky, who hit the gold mine. Because when you talk about weight, an actual weight, one person may have 1 million viewers a month, while another person maybe 50 to 100 viewers a day, maybe a couple of thousand a month. Big difference right there. Big difference in what you're going to make financially. Big difference in terms of the amount of comments you receive on your blog. These are all factors to take into account here. All factors to take into account. The amount of comments people get on their blogs, the amount of money they make, the amount of unique visitors they get. It plays a major role, but people feel it's like they expect to make money, Ronnie. They expect to make money on their blog. They do. They're starting a blog, and then 2 weeks later, they're like, why aren't I making any money? I'm throwing 10, 15 articles up every hour here. Yeah. It takes a lot longer. It takes a lot more than that. These big media sources that are plugging these blogs, these popular blogs out there, obviously having a large media source like a news channel that is appealing, or just millions of people are watching this news channel that catch on. They see an article that's associated with a blog, they plug it on the news channel. Boom, you've just been plugged on a nationwide channel or a news channel that intrigues millions of people. Clearly, that's going to help. The amount of people that link to you, the amount of people that are interested in your content, that get your site name out, your site address out, word of mouth, great form of advertising, marketing here, plays a major role. It's how you get from point A to point B, and then from point B to point C, and those strides get ever so longer as they continue on when you're talking about intriguing an audience. And also, I want to bring up a prominent name, a prominent term here, a niche audience. You have a bit of a different thought process, though, when it comes to the niche audience. You feel a bit different. You feel that maybe a plethora of topics. You have the choice to choose what you want, may be better off for people that are maybe searching blogs, searching content, and so forth, what people are interested in, and so forth.
Yeah, because it might be something that interests you on their blog that you read it. You're still going to come back, but I mean, for them to stick with one particular topic, maybe that is different. Maybe they can, different types of blogs on the same blog. It is almost like you read a newspaper. It's not the same news, although I'm beginning to wonder at times that you are, going after the reader, how you write, the style that you write, the type of audience that you actually have. You read the comments, you adjust as you go along. So maybe multiple topics on the same site. Even whether it's in the same area. I don't know. I've read different types of blogs that actually go that have one will be for puppies, how to train the puppies and do this for that, and then of course on the other side of it, she's doing coupons. Same thing that what interests me also would probably interest me in another area, so I'll look at it on the same blog. So I don't know. For me, it would be a wide array of information that they put out there.
But take this into account along with your argument here. How is that person going to have an expertise? Because you're hoping the person that is writing an article has expertise in what they're writing about. Otherwise, it's going to be a poorly written article with falsified facts. How are they going to have an expertise in all of these different topics? More than likely, somebody has an expertise in one topic, and that's why they have a niche audience. They're focusing on that niche market, one major topic that they have an expertise in, and then you create an outline that has subtopics from that main topic, like video games, MMORPGs. Focus on MMORPGs, not even video games that spur along the lines of console gaming and PC gaming, but MMORPGs that may happen to spur into the console category, but it's only MMORPGs only. That would include EverQuest and World of Warcraft and so forth, and Rift. All of these games that are MMORPGs. People that are going to this website are more than likely going to want MMORPG articles. If they go to another article and they see an article that has to do with walking your dog, more than likely isn't going to be relevant. You're going to lose that person quite quickly. They go to that website because they search on Google MMORPG games or an article that has to do with an MMORPG. They get to your website. They're going to look at other pages. They want relevancy there. That's how from what I've learned in the past, that's how people tend to react when they go to a website, especially a blog.
You can see, I don't blog personally, but I do read people's blogs to find out what's going on with them that I've just kind of met accidentally, through a Google search or was on Facebook.
Right.
A lot of my friends have their own blogs and post it on Facebook, so I go check it out.
Right. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up, and it's not as, I'm making tens of thousands of dollars a day. I can tell you exactly how it's done. I'm pondering ideas by talking about it, hopefully helping those of you listening. And then we all can, you can email, of course, send an email to me, jj@vonthenet.com, or go to www.vonthenet.com, click the contact link, and send your thoughts into your suggestions and so forth, questions too. Pertaining to this subject, this topic that we're talking about here regarding blogs and making money. Because I want to ponder ideas, I want to try and figure out along with you how we can increase our chances and how we can make money here, because there are hundreds and millions of people that are blogging.
Yeah.
And hundreds of thousands of each are blogging about the same exact things. So what separates them from the crowd? If you have 5,000 bloggers all blogging about the same topic, the same thing, only the type of how they write, the format is different. How are you going to separate 5,000 of them and figure out which one is the best one to choose? How? Well, that's why I brought a little bit of luck involved. Having that little bit of luck involved plays a major role. And once you have that foundation, you hope that loyal following will stick with you, and then the snowball effect occurs. I'll tell you, I'm going to be frank with you, Ronnie, and with those of you listening. As the owner of this network, the Voices on the Net network, I'm finding it to be very difficult in terms of the regulars that tune in each and every show to include the snowball metaphor, because in order to have that occur, in order for the snowball effect to work, you have to have those regular listeners, those regular viewers tuning in every day, and for the new listeners to pile on to the snowball. The regulars are going to tune in, sporadically, and the new listeners tune in, and there are going to be plenty of listeners that are going to tune in once, and that's it. That is going to be a lot more difficult to do exactly what it is, I want to do. And I think the same thing. I think the same thing pertains to the blogging world too. It's trying to find a loyal following that will come back every day looking for new content. And if you stop with the content and you lose that following, it's going to be hard to get it back.
Oh, yeah. There's been several blogs that I've gone to, and they haven't, posted for a year, but yet they still have it out there. The information's stale. I mean, they just don't keep it up. It's, they give up on it. Where they go in with the 10th, hey, I'm going to make money on this, and nothing happens for them. They just think it's going to come to them when in fact you have to have subscribers. You have to have actually people show up to be before you can even start that basis.
Yep. It's not good. If you're not going to update your website, you're not going to update it, it's not good. You have to update it. I will tell you that much. I have noticed increases in the amount of traffic that vonthenet.com gets because the network's updated all the time. You go to the website right now, it's updated, fully updated. So you're going to get new content. People are going to want to come back for more. And you hope that is. It has to intrigue an audience. How do you know if the audience is going to be intrigued or not? It's difficult. It is a challenge. I'm telling you, I've noticed it myself. It is a challenge, and it's getting over that hump. And other people that are associated with this industry, the competitors, will say the same thing. Unless you're one of the lucky few, one of the Twit, a Twit audience or the Twit Netcast Network or the Revision 3, they've already built that platform up. But they also had help because many of them, if not all, were associated with either radio and or television. When you're starting out at the bottom without any of that massive exposure, you have to generate a following first. That is difficult. That is very difficult. And then it's the snowball process, which is challenging in itself. So you hope that luck is on your side because you're going to have a bit of luck on your side because there's just so many people out there that are doing what I'm doing, what you're doing, what everybody else is doing. Everybody wants to be heard. And it's kind of hard for everybody to be heard at the same level as the large people, the people that are being heard at immense levels. Those that are profiting, paying their bills by blogging, by doing things they like to do. But remember this. Put passion before expecting to get paid because more than likely you're not going to get paid within a 3-year period, even if at all. So put passion before. Do it because you enjoy doing it. Because the quality of content plays a major role. That much I can tell you. That much is absolutely true. Take that to the bank. All right. We do have to go to... we have to head into your associations, folks, on this 273rd episode of the show. But before we do so, before we head into your associations, and we've got some great ones for you, we really do. Before we head into your associations, it is time to thank our sponsor. Yeah, this portion of the 273rd episode of the show is brought to you by Audible.com. And we thank Audible for their support of the Take Two program as well as the Voices on the Net network. Now listen up, folks, because Ronnie and I have one heck of a deal for you. You're not going to want to miss out on this deal. You don't even have to spend a dime. You don't have to spend a cent. Yeah, you don't. You'll receive one free audiobook as well as a 14-day free trial, a 2-week free trial to browse the 85,000 audiobooks that Audible has to offer. Or go to audibletrial.com/take2 right now. audibletrial.com/take2 to take advantage of this brilliant offer. You really will be glad you did. It's an experience that is unique to itself because you're used to, when you're reading, what are you used to doing? Reading traditionally, word for word, picking up a book, opening it, reading traditionally, reading an article. Even if it's an ebook, you're reading word for word yourself. In this case, somebody's reading to you. Yeah, it's unique in itself because it's similar to watching a movie or your favorite television show or listening to music on your computer or, say, listening to your favorite radio show or a podcast on your MP3 player. It's similar to that. And the voiceover artists that are behind the books add so much to each book, dramatic appeal, the comedic appeal to it. They engage you, engulf you into this story. You close your eyes, it's like watching a movie. Awesome. Try it out. audibletrial.com/take2 to take advantage of this great offer. Yeah, you'll be glad you did. You don't have to spend a dime. As always, we thank Audible for their generous support of the Take Two program as well as the Voices on the Net network. All right. And Ronnie likes when I do that. All right. What do you say we get into some associations before heading into your stamp of reparation? I know you've got a couple for us over there.
Oh, yeah. The Gettysburg Address. President Lincoln.
Yeah.
His entire address, short to the point, he only had 273 words, which was less than 2.5 minutes. Applause included.
amazing, Ronnie, how the address by the president has changed over the last, say, 100 years, 80 years. It's changed a lot, hasn't it?
Yeah. Now it's measured by how many times Democrats stand up, Republicans stand up, how long the applaud's going to be. And they don't write their own anymore. President Lincoln, however, did.
Well, that's another thing. That's another thing, Ronnie. They don't. They have speechwriters, which is in itself, they want to perfect the speech. They also have I'm not saying, say, back, in the mid-1900s, I'm not saying that they didn't have the ability to have a speechwriter write speeches. It was just a different time. Also, the speeches were shorter, as you hear now, 273 words. So really, do you need a speechwriter to write a speech that's only 2 minutes long versus a speech that's, say, 25, 30 minutes long from presidents over the last 10 years? No, it's a lot different. It was a different time, and clearly how the addresses are gone forth are different nowadays. You see presidents high-fiving and shaking everybody's hand, and then the media is involved more now, and it's a different experience. It is. So
big time. Plus, you don't have the multitude of reporters that are standing there live at the Oval Office.
Absolutely, great one, great. He was
he was actually on a wagon when he gave that speech. So
yes, he was. Go back to your history books. You'll find all about the Gettysburg Address. You will. Great association, Ronnie. Thank you. I've got one for you, and this has to do with Michael Jackson. Unfortunately, yes, he did pass on, but his music is still with us, and it will be with us forever. However, there's music out there, and plenty of it, that we don't even know about. Yes, Howard Mann, a Toronto entrepreneur, bought a warehouse filled with Jackson family paraphernalia. Yeah, which included such a gold mine, that this guy is sitting on it. Or is he? 273 unreleased master tracks he's sitting on. Now, I haven't heard anything, Ronnie. I don't know if you have. I haven't heard a darn thing that has to do with the 273 unreleased tracks being released or being talked about. This was back in 2010, back in June of 2010 that I heard last of this. That had to do with this guy that bought this warehouse that had to do with all of these unreleased tracks. And some of them from back in 1975 from the CBS Variety series that featured the Jackson 5, Ronnie. And Tina Turner.
Wow.
Some pretty amazing tracks. And I can tell you there are many Michael Jackson fans that would love to hear only a few of these, if that. They need to release these. And I'm sure, money-wise, they will eventually. And
it reminds me of Elvis.
Yeah, exactly. How many singers they write song in anticipation, of course, their death, or maybe not anticipation, that was the wrong word to use, their obvious anticipation, obviously people are going to die, so they know they're going to die someday, so why don't you write songs but don't release them so that after you die, you'll have music that can be released. You let a few people know, and then they can release those songs to, of course, the world. Yeah.
It makes you wonder, did the guy not know that these were in there in the warehouse when he bought it? Was it just like one of those fluke things you buy a storage unit and all of a sudden they're there?
That's the other thing. Why the heck would they sell this warehouse to this guy, not knowing that there were 273 unreleased tracks? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
So that's a little confusing. I didn't know much about this. There wasn't really much on this story. There wasn't. I remember when this came out back in 2010. And every article had the same exact thing. And ever since, up until now, I haven't heard a darn thing about this story. So all I know is that, there were supposed to be court hearings and so forth. This guy, if you think about it, this guy owns the physical tracks, but he does not own the copyrights to these songs. So where does it lie? He could sell the songs back to the Jackson family and make a whole lot of money. He owns the physical tracks now because they sold him the warehouse, but he does not own the copyrights. It's not as he could release them. He can get in trouble. He can be sued for that. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly where this goes. And we'll find out. We'll follow it, obviously. I'm sure we'll definitely talk about it if we hear anything. So...
Yep, I'm sure it'll be just as long as the trial presently is right now involving the doctor.
Absolutely. All right, Ronnie, how about some associations, some funny law associations?
Funny laws.
Yeah.
State of Rhode Island. This is state law, subsection code 15-5-273.
Okay.
Any marriage where either of the parties is an idiot or a lunatic, the marriage is null and void.
Rhode Island, imagine that. Now, those that are involved at least have something that is protecting them, a law protecting them from lunatics and or idiots. So if you do happen, and you're in Rhode Island, to be associated with an idiot, somebody that's a lunatic, somebody that is literally following you with a knife, well, if you happen to get out alive, a law is protecting you. I think you're safe. In Rhode Island, then again, anywhere, pretty much anywhere, I think if somebody was chasing you with a knife or somebody was a lunatic or a maniac, you'd want to get out of the relationship right away, right? I would hope so.
And the next one comes from Ohio. This was effective in 1954, and then it's been revised several times, so it's gone through some issues of its own. This is section 273.1.12, that no one may be arrested on Sunday or on the 4th of July.
And where is this in?
This is in Ohio.
Ohio. You know, this is something that you probably should have kept on the DL, Ronnie, because we've got people listening. I'm not saying our listeners are criminals or anything, but you never know who's listening. So it's like, they go to Ohio. Not condoning this, but then again, you never know what's going to happen.
You never know.
Go to Ohio. They're like, I can't get arrested on the 4th of July, or I can't get arrested on a Sunday.
So I guess it's a free pass from midnight 01 until midnight 01 on Monday.
Exactly. What a crazy law! How dumb! They got to get rid of that.
I know.
They've got to totally restructure.
They
that
must
law.
have it must have been busy on Friday and Saturday night. They didn't have room for anybody on Sunday.
I guess so. I guess Ronnie, people can't rob banks on a Sunday, or they can't.
Yeah.
If anything, you would want to rob a bank. I'm not condoning it, but I'm saying if you're a criminal and you're robbing a bank, wouldn't you want to rob it on a Sunday where it's less obviously busy? Duh. Thinking in the minds
Let's try to keep the criminals in church.
Right.
I'm not sure on that one either.
Wow, what a weird law. I guess we could always count on the funny laws, though. You are the queen of funny laws during this part of the show. All right, Ronnie, let's head into your stamp of reparation for this 273rd episode of the show. Ronnie, you have the mic.
This is a different one. You know, usually people out there that have their babies, they cannot wait. They have the baby showers and their names are already get picked out, or they have the blue or the pinks. Everything's known. Not for a couple in Canada, however. Now, I would not have picked on these people, except they used one word that really ticked me off, and that was the word it. We are talking about a baby that's named Storm. And I just call it Storm in the media is what this is called.
Exactly.
Mom is Kitty Whitworth, who happens to be 38. The father, you notice they don't have the same last names as David Stalker. He's 39 years old. They have two other children, both boys, older, 2 and 5. Gave birth to the baby is now 4 months old, and they are going to keep the sex, the gender of the baby, a secret. So the baby can choose whether or not the baby wants to be a female or if the baby wants to be a male without putting some kind of a idealism into the child's head. Now get this. The grandparents do not know themselves as to what sex their grandchild is, whether it's a boy or a girl.
What a
mother
controversy.
slips.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. The mother slips and calls her baby it. That's when I drew the line. I was like, that's it. I'm done. I would have let her go and slide on this. It's like, you know what? Do whatever you want to do. It's not near me. But then when she said the word it, she just put a simplex on the baby. Not to mention the fact they sworn a 2-year-old, give me a break, and a 5-year-old to secrecy so they cannot tell nobody what sex they're, whatever.
Hey Ronnie, does this family think that the baby can choose whether it, in their mind, can choose whether it is going to be a he or a she?
I think so. That's what they're thinking. They don't want any stigmatism placed,
They do understand that. They do understand that the baby is either going to have a penis or a vagina. It's how it is. I'm not trying to be gross here, but that's the fact. That's the truth.
Is.
So the baby is going to turn into a teenager. Even before that, and find out by looking down there, and they're going to see, well, I think you could find out exactly who you are and what you are, what sex you are.
Yep. Unfortunately,
Right.
they are not going to do that. Not to mention the fact this is how far out the parents are. They're stuck in the hippie days,
Right.
or I just picture them in this kind of jewelry. The father's not saying much, which is I wouldn't either. But the mother wants to teach unschooled. She wants to teach an unschool to where you don't learn the math, the history, the English, or anything like that. No. We're only going to teach based on what our kids are curious about. So I guess I can't wait to hear the sex part of this one.
Yeah, this is I don't want to necessarily judge a family that I don't know, but it seems to me that, I guess I am kind of judging here, it seems to me that people are finding more creative ways to get their 15 minutes of fame out there, and the media is going to eat it up because that's the way it is.
Yeah.
So I guess if you want, we were talking about how do you make money from a blog. Well, if you find a creative enough way to have the media involved in your blog, well,
That's right.
you're probably going to find quite a bit of traffic to your website.
Yeah.
But the fact
Because
is, I
the
feel
mother
sorry.
contacted the media. The media would not have known. Now, they wanted to keep this baby's sex a secret. Why tell people you're going to keep your baby's sex a secret? That's just totally, they're using a social experiment, and they're using their children to do it. First, they're teaching their children to lie, number one. Name a 2-year-old that's going to take a cookie and you're going to ask them, did you get in the cookie jar? No, well, the chocolate is all over their face.
Right.
It's going to be kind of hard for them to do that. Now they're teaching them, how to lie. Not to mention the fact the father, who happens to be a teacher himself, he teaches social justice, where you take from one hand and you give to another hand. That is even further out there. Then you use your baby's gender.
Right.
Not to let anybody know. I want to know when the baby was born. What did the doctor say?
Yeah, I wonder.
Congratulations. It's an it.
I guess that's where they got the term "it" from. Then, all right, we do have to go.
Yes.
We do have to go to the break. Thank you for your stamp of reparation, Ronnie. Appreciate it as always. But before we head to the break, we're going to be going into a couple of topics, a couple of items on the itinerary on the second segment for this 273rd episode of the show. Are you an optimist or a pessimist? Are you an optimistic person or a pessimistic person? Think about it. Where does realism? Where does that fit on the line between optimism and pessimism? Well, we're going to talk about that. An interesting article on Time.com that has to do with this here. That has to do with optimism, but also pessimism plays a part. It's called The Optimism Bias. Great article, 5-page article. We'll go into this a bit. Also, should homework be abolished? Yeah, on the weekends or for good? You go to school 7.5, 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday. Is homework really needed? Well, there's one kid in New Jersey that feels it should be abolished fully. Some teachers agree, some teachers disagree, some people agree, some people disagree. We're going to find out where Ronnie stands. I'm going to talk about this too, as well as your blast from the past, all on this 273rd episode of the show. Ronnie and I return right after the break, so stay tuned. Guess what, ladies and gents? Ronnie and I are back. That is right, on this 273rd episode of Take Two, right here on You Got It, the Voices on the Net Network. Appreciate having all of you tuned in. We've got a great second segment for all of you, so you want to stay tuned. You want to stay put right where you are. Believe Ronnie and I when we tell you, you stay put. But before we get into all of the material, if all of you tuned in right now would be so kind, and also let your friends know, your family members know, let everybody know to visit www.vonthenet.com. That is right, the Voices on the Net Network's website, where you, the great listeners, will be able to find more information regarding the Voices on the Net Network. All you have to do is go up to the top of the website where you will see an About link. And once you see it, you click it, and it will take you to a web page that will provide you everything you need to know regarding the network in thorough detail. Great webpage for those of you that are new to the network. Now, you could also check out another brilliant feature, podcasts. Yeah, podcasts of any of the episodes from any of the shows And they are all available on demand for and at your very own convenience. You can check all of these great features out by going to www.vonthenet.com. All right, Ronnie, guess what? We are back.
Yeah, we made it on the other side.
We made it to the other side. Not that other side.
Not that one.
The other side of the 273rd episode of the show. Take two. But yes, we do have a lot to go into. And what do you say we start things off with the first item, Ronnie? You want to?
I want to.
I want to. Optimism versus pessimism. A great article on time.com called The Optimism Bias. Really brilliant article. I read it all. And talks about optimism as a whole and how it affects our lives. How it affects our lives, really, because optimism, you would think, if you're optimistic, isn't that a good thing? You know, pessimism, optimism, glass half full, glass half empty ordeal. You would think if you thought about positive things in life, glass half full ordeals, or so forth, you would actually have a more positive outlook on life, and you would feel better about yourself. Well, that's true to a point, but when optimism affects your livelihood or your well-being, your health, that's where it gets to be too much.
Right.
That's where the term realism is added to the equation. You have a line. You have pessimism, you have optimism, and then you have realism right in the middle. Now, whichever way you may fall, whichever way you may lean towards, the realism is going to slowly weigh towards your side. But there's also the other side. If you're pessimist, optimist. If you're optimist, pessimist. That it's going to have to intercorrelate with whatever you may be following, whatever view you may follow. Ronnie's going to explain more about this because she's got quite a bit to include regarding this. She really does. That has to do with, if you're optimistic, why pessimistic has to be a part of your life. Ronnie, you've got the mic.
Well, you do. With optimism, I mean, that opens your door to creativity, to look beyond the closed doors that are in front of you. But pessimism, if you're doing that, that grounds you. That prepares you for, okay, this is what's going to happen. Prepares you for that next step to take anything to protect yourself, to where optimism, opens up that door, doesn't close anything off to you, but it also keeps you creative along the way and gives you a positive outcome. But in between those, you have that realization that things can go wrong. Things are not going to be exactly the same for everybody that's out there, and life always throws us a curveball. And then it depends on what side of that full glass, half glass, how we're going to do that. Is it leaking? You have to understand how those go. So you have to have a little bit of one to support the other, or else you cannot really dual exist, can you? Because it has to prepare you for what possibly could go wrong. And I think a lot of if you look at some of our celebrities out there that have passed away here recently, Patrick Swayze is one, right? That was given a death sentence. Did he accept that as a death sentence? Absolutely. He knew that it was. But he wanted to see how long he could go on. He was given 4 to 6 months. He lived 3 years to do what he wanted to do and how he wanted to do it. And so he had that. He knew with the pessimism that let him go, but the optimism to carry on.
All right. It's our perception of what we follow in life in terms of the many curveballs we're going to receive in our lives. We live a life filled with whatever we may have to go through, whether it has to do with the relationship aspect, breakups and over and over and over again, diseases, your house going into foreclosure, or you having a disability. So many different things have to do with being thrown a curveball in life. Would probably put you in a state of pessimism, depression, and so forth, rather than being optimistic. How many people can say they go through a disease and then a disability and then another another disease and then a foreclosure and then a breakup and then another ailment and then another breakup? How many people can say that person is going to be able to maintain an optimistic viewpoint after going through all of the above? clearly it's going to be difficult. But is it necessarily bad to have a bit of pessimism associated with that optimistic viewpoint, or the vice versa? Whereas you have realism added on the line too, though, because even though you're optimistic, you have to add a bit of realism to that equation. Now, people that have went through all of the above over and over again, they have so many curveballs. Some people are going to receive more curveballs than others. It's the way it is. Some people are going to be a bit more lucky in life. It's the way it is. Life is not fair. We all know that. But somebody that has went through curveball after curveball after curveball, somebody that has maintained that optimism, that's great because they're maintaining a positive attitude. But depending on what ailment they may have, depending on what disability they may have, is it important to maybe feel a bit, have a bit of realism associated with that? Because if you have a disability where your doctor says, listen, you're never going to walk right ever again in your life, or if you have, say, osteoporosis, you're going to have osteoporosis the rest of your life, or if you are diagnosed with Alzheimer's, you're going to have Alzheimer's the rest of your life. Is it realistic to think, listen, I'm going to beat osteoporosis, I'm going to beat osteoporosis, or I'm going to beat Alzheimer's, rather than thinking more realistic, not necessarily pessimistic, but thinking more realistic that, listen, I can deal with what I have right now, deal with the osteoporosis, deal with the Alzheimer's, but be realistic and live with what I have, rather than think, I'm going to beat these two diseases or either one. I'm going to beat this. But then if you reach a level, a point in time where it gets so bad that you're, you know what I mean, going downhill.
Right.
Now, you're going to be disappointed with yourself, perhaps, making you more depressed. Would it be better to maybe think more realistic and live with what you have? If you have a disability, yeah, you're disabled, but that doesn't mean you're just existing. You could still live your life while you have a disability.
Just alternate
or an
what
ailment.
You're doing.
Right.
I mean, look how many people that you have out there that are born. There was a show on TLC, a woman, where she was not born with the lower half of her body. I mean, that was all missing. And to somebody else who was born with the lower half of their body, she accomplished more than somebody else that was born, as we would quote, normal.
Right.
But she lived her life, and still to this day, she was able to get married. She's had children, even though they told her that she would never have it. Well, she never knew what it was like to have legs in the first place. So she didn't miss them. She improvised and became just like everything else. Taught herself how to drive, used a skateboard to get where she had to go. I mean, this woman was great. And then you have those that have everything that somebody else you would think would want. And they think the complete opposite. They're always on the downside, what's going to happen to me next type thing.
Absolutely. Having a positive, now listen, there's a difference between having that positive outlook in life, having a positive look and you feeling good about yourself, versus having that positive outlook too much, going overboard, over optimism, and forgetting about the realistic approach. Because some people are so overly optimistic, they think, listen, you're healthy right now, you're overly optimistic, you don't think you're going to get one disease, you're optimistic, you know what, I'm so happy with myself, I'm so optimistic, I'm never going to get any disease. I could eat every fast food, I could go to every fast food restaurant every day, eat tons of these fast food burgers, french fries, chicken nuggets, whatever, and I won't get any coronary disease whatsoever. Yeah. 5 years down the road, you get a heart attack. You have a heart attack. I guess that optimism really led you in the right direction, huh? No, it didn't. It actually led you to have a heart attack. That optimism. There was no realism associated with that. There was no realism on that line. None.
In a way, it could be dangerous because there's nothing there to ground you. You think you're over and beyond anything that's going to get you.
Right.
And none of us, I mean, all of us are going to die eventually from what? We don't know. But if you got to prepare for that. You cannot just keep going on live thinking, everything's just hunky-dory, la, 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 la. It's not. Eventually, it's going to come knocking on your door because life will throw you a curve regardless of where you are in your life. You think everything's going through hunky-dory, and the next thing you know, something's happened to you. And now you've got to figure it out. If you're walking around because you are just so optimistic out there and nothing grounds you, that's almost dangerous because that throws you in a pit of depression. Because you're like, oh my God, it got me. How did that happen? I didn't even see it coming. Well, you didn't prepare.
Right. Absolutely. you hear the phrase, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, or what doesn't make you sick makes you stronger. What doesn't affect you in a negative way, in a seriously negative way, makes you stronger. You deal with the challenges through life. Because we all are going to be thrown curveballs, some more steeper than others, but we're all going to be we're all going to be thrown curveballs in our lives, and some more than others. It's how you deal with those curveballs, but it's also having the realistic approach and so forth. And you really should check out this article, those of you tuned in, if you haven't already, at time.com. It is called The Optimism Bias. The Optimism Bias. And it really is a brilliant article. It goes into so much. It goes into the scientific aspect. It goes into so much more than that, though. So much more than just science. You really have to check it out. Time.com, The Optimism Bias. There's an interesting part titled, subpart of the main article called Can Optimism Change Reality? And it talks about the pessimistic approach too. But in this article, it also adds the realism. It adds the realism to the equation. That is important, regardless of whether you're pessimistic or optimistic. Realism, because we live in a society that's filled with a lot of anomalies. We're living life. Real. The definition of realistic. This is real life. We're not in a dream. So things can happen negatively too. Also, things can happen positively. Now, you can reward yourself if something... No, your optimism may reward yourself if something good happens to you, or maybe you just stepped in you-know-what, and maybe you just had that optimistic approach. Saying that's great, but as long as you keep that realistic approach as well, you'll notice that it will benefit you in the long run, and to not affect your well-being in a negative way, even if you are optimistic. You feel, okay, I've rewarded myself with optimism over my period. If I get sick, I get sick. At least I had the optimistic approach. Well, what if you could continue to be optimistic, but still have that realistic approach? Now, Ronnie feels adding a bit of pessimism into the equation will ground you even. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a negative outlook in your life. You don't have to look into the future in a negative way, but you're including it just to ground it, to balance it out a bit. That's why you add realism to the line too, though. You don't have to necessarily have pessimism take over. That's why, realism is a part of it too. So having that associated with this too plays a major role too, though.
Yeah, because we have control of our life. We just don't have control of events that can occur in our life. We have control of how we are going to deal with it. If you're not prepared and you think nothing's ever going to happen to you,
right?
Well, then I think that you just opened the door wide open to a bigger problem than probably what it would have been in the beginning.
Absolutely. Glad we went into this here because it is a wonderful, wonderful article, and clearly, adding the word bias to it, whether it's the optimism bias or the pessimism bias, clearly brings out a great point that there is a big bias there. If you're optimistic, clearly you're going to snarl at those that are pessimistic. Whereas if you're pessimistic, the exact opposite, the vice versa. So clearly that plays a role, the bias that's involved. All right, we do have to move into the next item on the itinerary on this 273rd episode of the show. We're going to talk about whether or not homework should be abolished or not. And this article has to do with New Jersey. Yes, there's one kid that is fighting. Yep, that is right, fighting to get rid of homework, not only on the weekend, but for good. What about getting rid of homework only on the weekend versus altogether, though? What about altogether? Ronnie has quite a bit to say about this, as do I. And we're going to talk about something that has to do with, say, restructuring, how homework is done. Or maybe getting rid of it altogether. What is it going to be? You're going to want to stay tuned. It's going to be a great discussion. You don't want to go anywhere. But before we head into the next item on the itinerary for this second segment, it is time to thank our sponsor. That is right, this portion of the 273rd episode is brought to you by Audible.com. And we thank Audible for their support of the Take Two program as well as the Voices on the Net network. Now listen up, because Ronnie and I have a great deal for you all. You don't even have to spend a dime. You don't. You receive one free audiobook and a 14-day free trial, a 2-week free trial to browse the 85,000 audiobooks and counting. Always new titles being added to this great service. The premier service on the net. It is that good. It is the best service on the net. That includes great audiobooks. From books that you would read traditionally, only voiceover artists voicing your favorite books. What do you have to lose? One free audiobook, a 14-day free trial? Even if you're not an avid reader, the chances are it's a unique experience. You're going to enjoy it because more than likely you've watched television, you watch your movies, your favorite movies, you listen to your favorite music on your computer, you listen to your favorite radio shows or your podcasts on your MP3 player. Well, try out the audiobook, the auditory experience. Rather than traditionally reading a book word for word, have somebody read to you, similar to when your mommy and your daddy read to you when you were younger. Go to audibletrial.com/take2 right now. audibletrial.com/take2 to take advantage of this great offer. One free audiobook, a 14-day free trial. You'll be glad you did. audibletrial.com/take2. Support the Voices on the Net network and the Take Two program by going to that link. As always, we thank Audible for their support of the Take Two program as well as the Voices on the Net network. audibletrial.com/take2. All righty. Listen, homework, good or bad? Do you like homework, Ronnie? Do you like homework? Honestly, if you think about it, you go through. All right, I'm going to give us an. I'm going to put you in place of a scenario here. You go to school. You wake up early. You don't get a good night's sleep. You go to school for 8 hours. You go home. You want to relax. Put some bum clothes on. You just want to hang out, kick back. You had a long day at school. Similar to going to work all day, not wanting to do a darn thing after you get home. The last thing you want to do is more work. The last thing you want to do is more homework, right?
That's right.
So if you were to think about it, should homework be abolished? Should homework be abolished from from students' lives, school lives, if you think about it? There's one kid in New Jersey that would love to get rid of homework because he feels he compared it to slavery. However, some people are feeling that went a bit too far. But he brings up some points that, well, we learn quite a bit in school. We need some time to spend with our families. We need some downtime. And the amount of homework, at least in New Jersey, that many students receive totals 2 hours or more. Where do you stand here, Ronnie, in this debate, the whether or not homework should be abolished debate?
I think it should be left, for number one, it needs to be critiqued a lot. Because let's think about it. What did we learn when we were in school and brought everything, work home, or our schoolwork home with us? I didn't learn a lot other than I had to hurry up and get all this done before I was able to eat supper.
Right.
And it was almost used as a form of discipline. If you don't get your homework done, you don't get to do this, this, and this, and this. And then when it comes time for school, you already have some kind of resentment toward the teacher in the first place because they sent you home with 4 hours of homework versus what you could have been doing at that time. I think that, okay, on the weekends, I am in total agreement on the weekends. Absolutely not. They should not have any homework on the weekends. That's their time. That's their free time. They're not in school during the day. Let them have it. On the weekdays, I think it should be improvised. It should be, extra credit is a great, great thing. I had a science teacher that taught me more in that year than I probably learned the entire time that I was in high school. She would let you go home and given you a project. You chose your project as long as it had to do with a particular topic. You were given 6 weeks now, whether or not doing a model, whatever, you did a diary. That was your homework, a diary. To keep track of what you were doing, you turned it in on a Friday, you got the diary back on a Monday. And there was no test. No test. And I think that even other classmates, to this day, when we see each other, we will talk about that teacher. That teacher is the only one that sticks out. Because you go back and think about it, I can't remember half the other teachers. This one taught us more with what she did versus what the others did and gave us 6-8 hours homework a night.
Right. It's just, listen, you could bring up this to students, that receive 2+ hours of homework every day, and I guarantee at least 95% of those students will say, yeah, I'd love to get rid of homework, yeah. And I would guarantee you that more than 75% of the 95% would benefit just as much, if not more, from what they learned in school if homework was abolished. I am serious when I say that. We live in a digital age. And the reason I bring that up is if you go back 15, 20 years ago, homework might have been more relevant. Actually, it was. It was more relevant because we really didn't have technology at our fingertips. We didn't have every single piece of information available to us. We didn't have Google. So we had textbooks, we had magazines, we had articles, we had so forth. We would be receiving pages that were scanned by teachers, given to us. We were required to do homework, basing it off of the article that the teacher gave to us. That's where we were learning right there. And still, people were saying, this is just too much here, folks. But we did not have technology available. Everything was done by pen and so forth. It was just a different time. Remember, things do change. Technology, we have advanced quicker than many probably thought. We really have. We have. People probably didn't think, if you were to go back 15 years ago, didn't think at this point in time we would have everything we have available to us. If you were to, Ronnie, make an assumption, a guesstimation, go back 15 years, would you think we would have exactly what we have right now at this point in time? Would you?
No.
You would think it would probably take at least double the amount of time to have exactly what we have, the power we have right now at our fingertips.
Because, back then we'd have, you got mail.
Yeah.
We had that.
when that started, things really started to pick up after AOL was released. The amount of people that had AOL, the amount of people that heard, you've got mail every single day, every second of every single day, millions and millions of people. The innovation that pursued was amazing. It was just, oh my goodness, that followed that moment. It was crazy, and you could thank Moore's law for that. The trend in the history of computing hardware and software and so forth. I think it's mainly hardware, Moore's law. I can't quite remember, but I know that it's basically a trend. It's where it starts, and then as it continues, you figure, well, if 100 things have happened over the last 15 years, you figure you go to the next through the next 10 years, is that trend going to continue? Because over the last 15 years, 10, 15 years, if one thing happened after the other and it was constant, well, there aren't going to be any variables there, are there? Because it's been happening constantly. It's similar to studies. Studies can't include everybody else, everybody in the United States, everybody in the world. But if they include 50,000 people, or even less than that, they figure the next 50,000 people or so are going to have similar results. If they conduct more than one study, it's even more. It's even more on point because they have a trend going. It's all about trends. And that's where this plays a major role right here. However, it plays a major role, but I'm talking about the technological aspect, not necessarily the non-technological aspect. In other words, homework. I'm talking about the technological aspect because things change. We have been advancing a lot quicker. So as we advance a lot quicker, we notice that we have more information at our fingertips, that if you go back 15 years ago where we didn't have what we have now, homework was, I guess in a way, well, it was, the chance for teachers to see what students learned. However, this is another point that I want to bring up. Educator to teacher. If you think about it, it's the educator that's teaching the student the material. And the quality of the educator plays a major role in whether or not that student is going to learn the material. If the educator sucks, the student is only getting and retaining what the educator's teaching them, correct? If you think about it. So if the teacher is not doing their part, how are they going to retain what they've learned from a teacher that's not doing their part and doing the homework? They're not going to go very far. And remember, if they do poorly on that homework assignment, it reflects their grade. That's where extra credit comes into play. Restructuring it to maybe not necessarily include or not necessarily have to do with their total grade, but if they do it, they get extra credit, whereas anything that happens in school has to do with their major grade, not necessarily what's done at home.
Right.
And I think that's
because
where
homework counts what? It's 15 to 20% sometimes
Yeah.
of your grade. And
It
your
does,
test, 40%.
Yeah.
So very little on your activity that you're actually performing in the classroom. The majority of that is based on what you're doing after hours. That's even more stressful on them. Not to mention the fact, 10, 15 years ago, the classroom books that you had were 5 years old, sometimes 10 years old when you had them. And now you go on the internet, look how much you've got at your fingertips, that you can utilize that. If they just,
Right.
even schools now have their own websites built up that if the kid misses school or whatever, they can go online and do their homework.
Right.
They supply tutors. So if you have a student that may be a little low, maybe the parent thinks that they need a little bit more education, a little bit more assistance, they can go on the internet right there. The school supplies a tutor versus having to stay out of school or being taken out of class, out of that atmosphere, and chosen out. They're divided up, and then now they're picked on because they're considered slow. That now with the technology that we have, they can actually go on the internet and they don't even have to be singled out anymore and work with somebody online from the school. I mean, what better way can you do that than this, especially with homework? Even when we had special ed students, they were bringing home a lot of homework as well, and the parents didn't even know how to do it.
Right.
So who's benefiting?
Right. And the thing is, seeing that the educator, we're talking about a traditional school here, the educator is not home to teach the to answer a student's question. So they're forced to now go to their parents. And if the parents don't know, the parent has to put money out for a tutor, extra money for that tutor to help that student with whatever it is the teacher failed to teach them. And that's a problem, in my opinion. It is. Because we go to school for 8+ hours, 7 to 8 hours a day, if not more in some cases. And it's unfortunate that we have to go through the amount of homework that we go through. 2+ hours every day is just too much. Too much for us to handle when we need that relaxation period. We need to be able to settle down. We do. We need to be able to settle down at home, relax with our family, recollect our thoughts. Because too much of anything is not a good thing. Because education even should be done in moderation. Education should never cease to exist, but you need some time to relax. You need some time to just sit down and just breathe. And it seems that with 2+ hours of homework every day, it's too much. Way too much.
No, because you're there for 14 years. 14 years behind walls during the wait times. And then so now schools are wanting to go year round. Oh boy, that should be really interesting. How much more can you learn within a year than you're going to learn, the regular school year and not actually cut off any time? It's just, I think they're taking it a little bit to the extreme because I think they've seen the results of America on some of the grading aspects of it. But I think we hold ourselves to too great when you're talking about an education. Look, we had some people put their kids into preschool at the age of 3. They had 3 years at home being just a total toddler. They barely even know how to talk, barely how to walk or do anything like that. But hey, I don't know, let's put them to school. Now they're in school for 16 years. What are we doing? And we're not gaining anything from it. We've already proven that. So there has to be a change.
Absolutely. I just think, when you talk about whether or not abolishing homework is the answer, I think it needs to be restructured. I really do. I think it needs to be restructured somewhat because extra credit is a great thing. I think the teacher's main focus is to make sure the students understand the material. I think too many teachers are focusing on their failure rate, the amount of students they fail. It's like if they fail, okay, you stay back, they have to redo that grade. What the hell is that going to prove? What? That they have to redo a grade? That's another year shaved off of their lives. Whereas they probably could learn much more in a digital age at home, looking up all of this content on the internet. I'm serious. Mm-hmm. If the educator's not going to do their part, well, clearly they shouldn't be educators. Educator in school should be able to teach students, and if an educator is good on an individualistic basis here, that they can maybe help a certain group of students that are quicker than others, understand this, because a teacher is going to teach an entire class. Every student is not going to have the same learning capabilities here. Right. They're not. And they need to prepare for that. I would think that's what the teacher did prepare for in the first place. So
you hope.
I would hope, yeah. Then again, that's up for debate in itself, whether or not our educators are actually doing their jobs. But
and they're not. And what kills me on the educator part,
right,
is that when they're hired, they're not really put through any kind of scrutiny to find out, how do they teach, or even a training period. Even though you have some that will go and be a teacher's aide for a period of time, but there's no specifications, nothing. They just graduate. We don't know what kind of grades they got in college, and I think that is important for a parent to know before you're in charge of teaching other kids. But there's just so many variables that we have in our education system right now that we've used the same system for how many years? 3 generations at least. Well, things different is how we got to school, a donkey versus a school bus. We need to start catching up. Look, colleges are done online now. It's jobs. After jobs, when you get off work, you're still doing the work. You got your cell phone. You're still connected to the job, even though you're not physically to the job. Why shouldn't schools also change?
Right. Talking about restructuring restructuring how homework should be done. If you spend 8 hours in school and people say, well, homework can benefit a student by working on their study habits, well, work on them in school. Why don't you? First off, I thought group work and so forth has to do with, or group work has to do with a school's itinerary. Study habits has to do with a school's itinerary. You're teaching a student history, math, and so forth. They're going to learn study habits in school. Try and restructure it so that is included more in the school's itinerary. Rather than focusing on, listen, we assume that the student is going to have a good enough study habit or study habits to be able to do the work at home, do a great job on it. But if they don't do a good job on it, they lose excessive points, which can negatively affect their grade. It just, I'm serious when I say I think it should be restructured, and I truly feel that those that have limited homeworks, and there have been studies and articles that have showed other countries, other areas around the world that have limited, if not no homework whatsoever, and their students score very high on tests and in school. They do very well, and I'm definitely for so forth. And those that feel that you're dumbing down kids by not including homework, that is BS. Because you spend most of your time in school anyway. All right? You spend most of your time learning in school anyway, at least what your teacher's teaching you. I feel education should never cease to exist. You hope that, even if you want to include this factor, if teachers make teaching interesting to the point where they're going to but hope that their students are learning at home, maybe focusing on looking at websites on their own time. Maybe they want to learn at home. I know I do. I'm always looking up new information at home. Always. I think that overwhelming them with homework, stressing them out is not the way to go. I really feel that way. And it's just, this kid has something going here. He does. He is really moving. This is a movement that he's focusing on. A huge supporter of eradicating all homework. And
think how popular he is now.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, he is. Well, that's all the time we're going to spend on that. This is in New Jersey. It's off of HuffingtonPost.com. An interesting article, a video, too, that's associated with it. So if you want to check it out, go to HuffingtonPost.com. And the title is No Homework Debate Finds Support in New Jersey, with a video associated with it. We have to head to your blast from the past on this 273rd episode of Take Two right here on the Voices on the Net and Network. Ronnie, you know what? This is a fun part of the show. What do you say? What do you say you and I, and everybody tuned in, all of the listeners, all of our fans, head into the past? You want to?
I want to. I'll go.
Let's go, folks. Here you go. Enjoy. This is your blast from the past. Here we go. This is a story that's going to get both of us talking, and those of you listening are also going to understand where Ronnie and I are coming from here while we discuss this, and you can understand where this woman is coming from and probably have quite a few things to say about it. Anyhow, an Ohio mom, her name is Kelly Williams Bowler, was jailed for sending her kids to a better school district, or a better school in a different district. Now, this is where the conflict rises, because different towns have different taxes that are paid into the school, okay? And, this is, and I've heard of things happening in my neck of the woods as well, where students transfer over to another school, they move in with their grandmother, and they use that address, okay? However, some states are more strict than others, and you could be jailed for doing that, okay? This Ohio mom was jailed for doing just that. You talk about political rhetoric on the education reform by President Barack Obama, or just education in general for that matter. But really, I mean, she's not a murderer, okay? She's just looking out for her kids, okay? Clearly, all right? However, if you really want to, if you want to be bureaucratic here and go by the rules, you're going to think, well, she got what she paid for. She reaps what she sows. Although I'm not going to be that way. I'm not. She was just looking out for the benefit of her kids. All right, her house was broken into. The neighborhood she was growing, she grew up in, or the house in her neighborhood is in a dangerous area. So she felt, why not? Send her kids to a different school. Okay, they didn't live in the district though. I mean, what do you have to say about this, Ronnie? I mean, when you talk about following the rules or taxes and so forth. Should education maybe live above that, or is education really only about the money here, if you think about it?
I think education is based about the money, and I think it's also in this particular, in a lot of instances such as this, when you divide the school districts up, you're actually producing some sort of segregation, because you're trying to have a particular area, and they're trying to keep certain people out.
Right.
Then you have those that actually live in the school district, but they don't pay taxes into the school district because they are actually county.
Right.
But yet their kids still receive the same privileges as if they actually lived in there. And there's no problem with that. Why is that no problem with that? But yet if you live in the next town over and you want to send your children there to get them a better education versus to what you already have, what is so wrong with that? You're supposed to be, the No Child Left Behind. Now we're supposed to be, no borders as far as our children are concerned. But yet she is taking the initiative to get over and beyond where she is presently at. I mean, she's going to be a teacher, but she can't do that now. Now she has a record.
Yep.
I mean, how many times have you seen on, certain forums where it states that you are, if you lie on here, you're, so many days in prison, so many bigger fine, and people actually ignore that. And how many times people actually go after them because they violated that? Very, very few. So I think that she was picked on because the school district, hired a private investigator with the funds they could have used to send her kids to school.
Yep.
To find out where she lived. So to me, they were actually segregating against her.
Yeah, they targeted her out right there. They targeted her to make her to be out to be an example of this, to make sure that other people don't do this. Whoa! Whoa! Wow. Can you believe that? I'm dizzy. Oh God. Did you see that? I was just spinning around and round and round and round we go. Ooh. I'm trying to I'm trying to just breathe. Maybe I should close my eyes. I'll be more dizzy. All right. Yeah, I was spinning around. Those of you listening to the podcast, I was spinning round and round and round like a merry-go-round. And, it was dizzy. I was just goofing off during that blast from the past. But I still heard exactly what it was all about. It's so funny, Ronnie, how we talked about education just before, right? And it had to do with that. So, it's crazy.
Full circle effect.
Full circle effect, exactly.
Kind of like what you were doing in the background.
Just kind of, yeah. It's like that was also associated with it. The relevancy is amazing, I know. All right, we do have to go. That's all the time, folks, we have for this 273rd episode Take Two. I'm surprised I remember that. I was spinning so fast, I thought my brain was mixed around. But yeah, we'll be back for the next episode to do it all over again. For all of you, you are great. Thank you all for your support. And let your friends, let your family know about Take Two, the Voices on the Net network, every show available on the network. We appreciate your support. We really do. But we do have to go for now. So until next time, much love to you all. You guys are great. You guys and gals are great. Bye-bye, everybody.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.